Today we are at the Einstein Papers Project in Pasadena at the California Institute of Technology. Einstein came to Caltech at the end of 1930. He had been invited by the president of the California Institute of Technology to visit almost as soon as Caltech was founded. Caltech became a university around 1920, and Robert Millikan was one of the founders of Caltech. He came from Chicago. He knew of Einstein's work. He knew Einstein personally, and he wanted Einstein to come to this new institution, to grace this new institution, especially after Einstein got the Nobel Prize in Physics at the end of 1922. So he arrived here just before New Year's Eve, 1930-31. He was driven in a motorcade from Long Beach to Pasadena by the chairman of the Board of Trustees of Caltech, Arthur Fleming, with whom he stayed for a few nights. And the first thing he did was watch the Rose Parade in Pasadena on January 1, 1931. Einstein was very famous by then, and he was followed by journalists every day, all day. He was appointed a visiting researcher at Caltech. He didn't have to teach. He participated in seminars. He gave several lectures, and those lectures were not always publicized because they were afraid too many people would show up. He gave professional talks. Einstein had already, in the mid-1920s, decided that he would not give popular scientific lectures. It was too much work and it was too difficult. So there were many colleagues at Caltech whom Einstein liked a lot, whom he knew from the past. And he interacted with the physics faculty, the astronomers, the geologists, and the chemists at Caltech. Those were the four disciplines best represented 80 years ago at Caltech. Since then, of course, we do a lot more than that. Well, the Einstein Papers Project is very similar to, let's say, the Presidential Papers Project. The United States publishes the presidential papers of Jefferson and Franklin and all other presidents. It's a standard edition, if you want, like a standard edition of Shakespeare. We try to find all documents pertaining to Einstein's work and life, publish them in a diplomatic transcription or in the original, meaning we keep all documents, warts and all. If Einstein made some mistakes, if Einstein misspelled somebody's name, which he always did, it's very interesting, then we transcribe the way he wrote. We know now of approximately 45,000 drafts, manuscripts, diaries, lecture notes, interviews, calculations, and letters to Einstein. So what's unique about our work is that we place Einstein in the context of the scientific community, the political world, the social world, the cultural world in which he lived, and we present both sides of a correspondence, both letters written to him and his replies. And as he became more and more famous, Einstein initiated less and less correspondence, but replied to the world's onslaught. So until he was about 40 years old, Einstein was well known to the physics community, which was very small at the time. After he gets the Nobel Prize and comes to the United States for the first time in the 1920s, he becomes very famous. People want to use him for all sorts of actions, enterprises, meetings, conferences, lectures, visiting professorships, and so on. And that's when his correspondence grows exponentially. While we have very little correspondence about the young Einstein, he didn't keep his manuscripts, he didn't keep his letters. We have a lot of correspondence for the older Einstein. and his replies to it. So, these are our latest volumes that we published. Here you see the German edition of the collected papers of Albert Einstein. We publish in the original language with annotation, footnotes to every document. So we have very serious documents. For example, a statement at the 6th session of the International Committee for Intellectual Cooperation. Einstein was a great supporter of reconciliation among enemy nations and among the scientists of former enemy nations after World War I. And he was appointed to the League of Nations Committee of Intellectual Cooperation. That's when he also collaborated with Millikan, who was the US representative on that committee. So we have serious items that deal with international cooperation, and we have silly little items, like a verse for baker of yeast cake. The text is in German, and it is signed by Albert Einstein Sr. and Jr. There are two Albert Einsteins. There's the one we were talking about, and his son, Hans Albert Einstein. And the verse in English reads, "The two Alberts and Tete," that's the younger boy, "blissfully outpigged each other. The yeast cake quickly disappeared. Soon nothing more of it could be found. With heavy belly and light heart, we paid tribute to our benefactor." That is the person who baked the cake for them. So we have these silly verses, and here is the manuscript of this little verse. So here you see the transformation and the kind of work that we do. We used to have Xerox copies of these things. Now we have high-quality scans. This material is located at the Albert Einstein Archives in Jerusalem because Einstein left all his papers to the Hebrew University. So we work from the original, like this. We transcribe it, and we explain it. So we explain to the reader that this autographed document, signed, was written probably in Berlin or Kiel between the 23rd of July and the 14th of August. We're not absolutely sure, and we give some references. We talk about his sons. We explain words like yeast cake, duchy. This is not an easy word, so we have to explain to the reader what it means. And then we say, if the cake was baked in Kiel, possibly by Mrs. Anschutz-Kempfe, wife of Hermann Anschutz-Kempfe, or the sister. And then we also translate into English the same document. You see there are footnote markers. These conform to the same footnote markers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When these volumes are available online, and almost all of them are at this point, the user can toggle between the German edition and the English edition and click on these footnotes and read the explanations. So all this material is available online for free without a paywall. So this is a great achievement that I personally am very proud of. We have succeeded in making this available to anybody who's interested in Einstein. The scholarly understanding, if you want, of Einstein's work and the popular understanding of Einstein have both changed tremendously since this project began, really upon Einstein's death. So if you want, the founder of this project was his secretary, Helen Dukas, who collected all the material, organized the material, labeled the material, and on the basis of her work, The first database was created in 1979, 1980 in Princeton, the first electronic database of the Einstein material. And since then, this database has ballooned like an expanding universe. And every year we find new material. And in light of all this material accumulated since the 1950s, we have learned a lot and have changed our standard view of Einstein. He also liked to help young people in their careers and in the development of their work. He was very interested in technology and experiments. This is something that is new, that people didn't pay a lot of attention to in the past. And remember, he died in 1955. It may seem very long ago to young people, but it's not that long ago for a historical figure. That means that assessing Einstein's legacy will take a long time. So what we are doing is we're making available this material for current and future generations of scholars who are interested in how scientific ideas develop, how they get implemented, how they get accepted or rejected. Did Einstein care about experiment, or didn't he care about experiment? So this is something we have shown over the last decade or so, that Einstein cared deeply about whether his theories are confirmed experimentally. Einstein's science is very complicated and difficult, so most people do not have a chance, an opportunity, and even the skills, certainly in primary school or middle school or even high school, to address Einstein's work in a deep way. One thing that impresses me always is that Einstein worked very, very hard, that things don't come easily. He didn't have eureka moments, maybe one, when he imagined that acceleration and gravity are equivalent or the same, that falling from a roof and flying up in a rocket ship, one feels more or less the same, and one doesn't know which is which. Is gravity pulling me down, or is a motor pushing me up? This was the equivalence. This equivalence was described by Einstein as one of his great moments of insight. We only have one other example where he says something personal, where he says, "My heart skipped a beat when the result came out correctly," but everything else was very hard work. As they say in German, Sitzfleisch, seat of the pants. He sat and worked, and he didn't achieve great success at a very early age. He wasn't off the scale in terms of abilities. He tried to hone his abilities his whole life, to learn new things. Sometimes he ignored things that he should have known. But yes, that's what is encouraging for us to know about him, that hard work and collaboration with people who know better mathematics or who know different aspects of physics might be helpful. That one doesn't have to go it alone, and that inspiration doesn't bring great results, but hard work